Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. Just getting started. I'm going to start slow here because there's not that many people watching yet. The annual meeting just ended. I was planning to start about an hour from now, but the meeting ended quicker than I thought, so I'm ready to go. I took a lot of notes, so I'm going to start talking. I just want to, wait till a few more people are watching, but I'm probably going to get going right now. So, first of all, obviously, thank you to the Vtol Law Firm in Sweden, all my Patreon supporters for helping this channel grow. You can support the channel on Patreon in the links below. In the description below, there's a link. You can also check out my channel, The Daily Lie, which is booming. That's where I talk about politics. I don't talk about politics on here. There's a link to that in the description below. T-shirts, Tesla's the next Tesla, stainless water bottle, Elon water bottle. I got two of them. Got two. I like them so much, I bought two. This is gonna be a long day, so I've already finished one of them. So all of that at elonbits.com. Link to that in the description below as well. So let's talk about what happened at the annual meeting. I'm really excited about this. Let me make sure. Let's see how many people we got. Okay. Oh, no, that's not what I was looking for. All right. So first thing that happened was the boring part of the meeting, where they did the votes, which they had to do. Kimball Musk and James Murdoch Jr. were elected to the board of directors. Not a big surprise there. There was a Tesla proposal to reduce the director terms. They didn't have enough votes for that, so that's over. Amendments to the bylaws that Tesla wanted were approved. The board wanted were approved. I think that PricewaterhouseCoopers was not ratified as accounting firm. I'm not sure what happened there. I think the advisory vote to reduce director terms to 1 year was approved. And I think diversity in hiring, I think, was approved. That was interesting. The other three, I thought the five shareholder proposals were incredibly boring and dumb and a waste of time. I think two of them might have gotten yes votes. I'm not really clear about that. So we'll see what happens with that. I'm a little surprised, but we'll see. So I thought number 8, independent board committee on strategy, was like the most annoying one of all, but then number 9 came in and rocked it a little bit. So let's move on, because that was sort of the boring, mundane stuff. I don't think any of that has a material impact on the company. There was a little bit of influx of wokeism trying to infuse itself into how Tesla does its business. I think Elon made a great pitch during when he spoke about Tesla always tries to do the right thing. And he, you either believe in Elon or you don't. If you don't believe in Elon, don't invest in his companies. I believe in Elon. When Elon says they're always trying to do the right thing, I believe him. Look, I'm a monster Elon fan, so of course I believe him. So, probably the biggest thing was said early that I thought stood out was, despite all the challenges with supply chain, with all the other challenges that Tesla faces, Elon said even with the challenges they're facing in the supply chain, he expects company growth. I think he means, revenue growth and unit growth to be at least above 50% for a while. Now, if the supply chain problems get resolved quicker, that would mean we would see greater than 50%, significantly greater than 50% growth for a while. So, if they did 500,000 vehicles last year, and it looks like they're going to do maybe 900,000 vehicles this year, that's an 80% growth rate. I think he's saying we're going to see at least an 80% growth rate for 2022. I think there's a chance we're going to see a 100% growth rate for 2022, but that supply chain is really holding things up. It's really striking how much the supply chain is holding things up. So that's a continuing issue, but we'll see how that goes. He said this before, but he said it again. Model Y, he expects to be the best-selling vehicle in the world by revenue next year, and the best-selling in terms of units delivered by 2023. That would mean delivering probably 1.5 million Model Ys in 2023. That is a bold statement. He said it before, so it's not really new, but he stuck to it in the face of all the supply chain issues, so that's great. Interesting number, he talked about free cash flow, that Tesla had $4.2 billion of free cash flow in the last 4 quarters. That just means the amount of money flowing into Tesla versus the amount going out. The plus side was 4.2 billion more coming in than went out, as I understand free cash flow. So that is great. I'm getting to that, Mark Plot. I definitely got that note, Mark Plot, about Shanghai. Cost reduction, that the gross margin is up while average selling price is down. Ordinarily, when you have a company that is producing higher priced products, it's easier to make higher margins on your products. Tesla is lowering the cost of, they're lowering prices on average because they're making less Model S's and X's and more Model 3s and Ys, and Model 3s and Ys cost less than Model S's and X's. Despite the lowering the average selling price of vehicles, they have increased margin. That's hard to do when you're selling lower priced products. It's harder to sell them for higher margins, higher profit per vehicle margin. So that's great news. That appears to be continuing. Great to see that. One of the big items that, and Mark Plot mentioned this in the chat. Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Jim, and thank you to the moderators for helping manage the chat. Giga Shanghai now exceeds Fremont in production. This was probably something to expect, but Giga Shanghai is just booming, and Giga Shanghai will continue to boom. And with that, this was new. Elon said that they expect Fremont, the Tesla factory in Fremont, to increase output by 50%. Well, I think that means that Fremont is going to reach something like 750,000 vehicles a year. I'm not sure about that, but I think that was a bigger statement than I expected. And I'm not sure it needs capacity, because capacity for Fremont is 600,000. So if he means 50% on top of the 600,000 capacity, that would mean 900,000 vehicles out of Fremont. And Shanghai will probably expand more than that. So we're just on those two factories, we could be looking at 1.9 million vehicles a year or more. I did not expect that statement. That Fremont will increase, and also Nevada. He expects Giga Nevada to increase output by 50%. So that's really big. Now, something he said at one point, I don't remember what the context for this was. He made some reference to units of Pentagon. And I Googled it while the thing was going on. I don't know what he meant by units of Pentagon. I don't know if anybody knows what that meant. I would love to hear it. He made a prepper reference. For those who don't know, I am a prepper. There's a concept called doomsday preppers. There's different levels of prepper. But he talked about the fact that having solar and Powerwall and Starlink would enable you to continue to have electricity and internet when the power is out. And actually, Cybertruck is, of course, a prepper vehicle because it's bulletproof. And just to be clear, there's like different levels of prepper. There's people who are like planning for the apocalypse, and there's people like I live in South Florida. If you have an earthquake, you need to be prepared for it. You need to be ready to have enough food and water for a few days or a week, or longer is better. Same thing in California. If there's an earthquake, you want to be prepared for that. Texas got hit with this snowstorm that he was talking about. And Texas, they have some hurricane issues in parts of Texas, but it's usually not that bad, depending on where you are. I mean, Houston got hit pretty hard one time, so you need to be prepared. But depending where you are in the country, you might not think you need to prepare for that. So just even if you're just dealing with natural disasters, it's good to be prepared. But the prepper concept is there's some kind of apocalyptic scenario, and you want to be prepared for that as well. So, he didn't talk about the capacity for Austin and Berlin, Georgie. I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, or Yorgi. I expect that Giga Berlin and Giga Texas will have far higher capacity than Fremont or Shanghai. They are big. Giga Texas is going to be insane. Factory safety improved. I did not see that before. Maybe it was in the impact report, but I don't remember seeing it. Factory safety improved. He said that as Tesla gets its factories up and running and they get better at running them, then everybody gets used to how they're supposed to work, and safety goes up, the number of injuries goes down, and they are hoping to have the safest factories in the world. Great stuff. AI Day, this was, I thought, a very striking thing. That AI Day, the goal of AI Day was to recruit employees for artificial intelligence for Tesla's operations. And they had a 100-fold increase, 100x increase in people applying for AI jobs as a result of AI Day. That is massive. That will help Tesla improve its performance in the AI area, full self-driving, Tesla bot, other things that Tesla is trying to do with AI. So really big there. And the final thing, which a lot of us expected, Tesla's headquarters is moving to Austin, Texas. We kind of saw that coming. Elon moved to Texas. I think Zach Kirkhorn bought some property in Texas a while ago in Austin. So very exciting to see that Tesla's headquarters is moving there. And Elon was quick to say, hey, This doesn't mean we're leaving California. This isn't anger at California. We're growing in California. They're going to increase 50% in California. So California's still growing. It's just that's where the big operations are going to be. That's where Elon spends most of his time when he spends time anywhere in one place. So that is coming. I personally think that Giga Texas will produce 5 million vehicles a year. This is a lot of people asking about this. I think Giga Texas will be at least 5 million vehicles a year. I think Giga Berlin will be at least 2, maybe 3 million vehicles a year. We'll see. Giga Texas is absolutely huge. If you get a chance to go to Austin, I think Kim Paquette was just there. You got to see Giga Texas. It makes Fremont look tiny. Fremont is like really tiny. So the opportunity to grow, and if Fremont is going to hit 900,000 vehicles a year, and Texas is like 7 times the size, well, that might be 6 or 7 million vehicles a year because it's going to be more efficient too. Crazy stuff, crazy stuff. This is great. A lot of great news here. Okay, so I'm going to come back and summarize what happened, what Elon said in his remarks. After this, I want to go to the questions that were asked, and then his responses, and then I'm going to come back, and if I remember, I'm going to come back and do this again. So, yeah, Jim, I'm looking for land in Austin, by the way. I am. If anybody knows of, I'm looking for about 5 or 10 acres outside of Austin, outside of Travis County, ideally within 30 minutes of somewhere in Austin, but anywhere outside of Austin, preferably southeast, south, or southwest, even on the west side. I don't really care. Anywhere around Austin, as long as it's outside Travis County. Travis County is more difficult. Travis County is the county that the city of Austin is in. Counties outside of Austin are better on zoning issues. I want to do my solar farm apartments project, and I need to do that somewhere that doesn't have restrictive, difficult zoning. And Florida has difficult zoning, but most of Texas does not, and the counties around Travis County do not have difficult zoning. So anybody knows of any 5 or 10 acre parcel that, as long as it doesn't flood regularly, reasonable, land, could be an hour away, half hour away ideally, but something like that, I would love it. Yeah, I personally would prefer south, southwest, something like that. So it's reasonably close to Giga Texas and the other things in South Austin. But frankly, I don't care. As long as it's in the ballpark, I'm happy. So, questions that Elon was asked about. First question from Say Technologies was about the start of production of Cybertruck. And Elon said he expects production of Cybertruck to start in the end of 2022. He also mentioned that they will hopefully produce Semi and Roadster in 2023. And this is fundamental problem. He said this before. They don't have enough supplies to produce more than they're producing. They just literally do not have enough. They're scaling up Model Y. They've been growing Model 3. They're working on Model S and Model X, and they can't really scale Powerwall or Megapack because they don't have enough chips, and there's other supply issues that they're trying to resolve so that they can produce more. So until they get enough supplies to produce the number of Model Ys they plan to produce, 3s, S's, and X's, that really doesn't matter whether you start production of Cybertruck because you're just choosing which vehicle you're going to produce. You might as well produce the ones that you can produce at scale. And the demand for Model Y is off the charts globally. Thank you, Gary. Are gigapresses deployed in Fremont? Yes, we have seen there are drone videos of gigapress in Fremont. I believe it's only the rear casting for Model Y in Fremont right now. I think there's 2 gigapresses operating there. I think there are gigapresses in Shanghai producing rear castings. I'm pretty sure that there are gigapresses either close to or in place in Austin and Berlin, and that will be front and rear castings. So those are for Model Y only so far. Eventually, I would expect that Model 3 will convert over to gigapress castings for front and rear of those vehicles. Hi, Jessica Kirsch. Thank you for joining the chat. So just be clear, like I have 2 Cybertruck orders, but one very early Cybertruck order. It looks like I'm not getting my Cybertruck until early 2023. So, and I'm curious, like, I've seen one of the things that nobody asked about is what's the progress on Model X, because there have been sightings of refreshed Model X's around. So I wish a question had been asked about what's the status of Model X. When are they going to scale Model S, and when are they going to scale Model X? And that question didn't get asked. So, sorry, I mentioned this about land in Giga Texas. If you go to my About page on my channel, you can get my email address, but my email address is wredlick@gmail.com. If you know of any land, Jim, I know I could do bigger, but right now I want 5 to 10 acres. Anybody knows of a good piece of land that's reasonable price outside of Austin, Texas? I would consider near Starbase too, by the way. Email me, wredlich@gmail.com, WREDLICH@gmail.com. Just email me. Let me know. You can put it in the comments. I'm not keeping up with the comments anymore because there's so many. So let's see what else. There was a question about a stock split, and Elon said not yet. Eventually we will probably do a stock split, but they're not thinking about that yet. 4680 cell production in Texas this year. He said not this year. 4680s will not be produced in Texas this year. He said they are making 4680s in Fremont, and they are making more than enough for Giga Texas to scale production of Model Y. So to be clear, I think they're aiming to produce 10 gigawatt hours of cells a year at Fremont, and 10 gigawatts if each vehicle has, let's say, 100 kilowatt hours, then it would be 10 vehicles for a mega, and they're going to have less than that. They're probably going to have 60 kilowatt hours. So let's say 15 vehicles is a megawatt hour. 15, is that right? Yeah, 15 vehicles would be a megawatt hour. I think I've got that. Or is it 150? 10 would be 600. Yeah, 15 vehicles would be a megawatt hour. 15,000 would be a gigawatt hour. 150,000 would be a gigawatt hour. I think I got that right. So I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that really does make sense, that that's enough to scale Model Y in Texas. Maybe that means that Berlin will not be using 4680. That Berlin is going to be straight 2170 cells. Interesting question. He said that Texas, I think, and also Berlin will start Model Y production and delivery this year. It still seems like they're on pace to start Model Y production and delivery this year. Production and delivery means they've got to start producing soon because it's October. So presumably they're going to start producing this month or next month, and they're going to start delivering next month. That's a good sign. And he said he expects Giga Texas, and maybe it means, by the way, that they produced a lot of 4680 cells already in Fremont, so they have a stockpile of 4680 cells to do that. I'm going to talk about where the next gigafactories. That's a question that was asked about location of gigafactories, so I'll talk about that later. That's actually coming up really quick. So high volume production of 4680 cells in Texas next year, presumably the same thing for Berlin next year. So as long as if they have a backlog of 4680s from Fremont and they're producing them in scale, they have enough for, let's say, 150,000 for Model Y, before they scale production in Texas. That's probably enough to keep up the pace, and they'll be ready for next year. He talked about, he talked about more factories. So yeah, I'm getting to Megapack. That's in the list. More factories start scouting locations next year. So he was asked about where they would do future factories, and Elon was reluctant to really talk about that. He said they're going to start scouting. They'll probably start scouting locations for new gigafactories next year. He said they will be expanding in Austin, Berlin, and Shanghai, and they'll maybe make a decision about where they'll do additional factories in 2023. So some of us thought they would make an announcement in 2022. It now looks pretty clear that they will. I don't think. It now looks pretty clear that we're not going to hear anything about a new location for a gigafactory, as in somewhere other than Austin, Berlin, or Shanghai, until 2023 at the earliest. So I personally don't think that's important. I think there's so much opportunity to scale at Giga Texas, Giga Berlin, Shanghai, and apparently Fremont now, that locations for future factories don't matter. It's going to take more than a year to scale production of Giga Texas, because they're just scaling Model Y now. There's going to be probably Model 3 lines and Cybertruck lines and ATV lines they mentioned. So there's a lot to scale at Giga Texas. There's a lot to scale at Giga Berlin. So there's a lot of room to grow in those factories first. So I don't think there's a hurry of finding new locations. And I think there's room to do more in Texas outside of that particular factory structure. They may have other land in Berlin. I heard that they had more land in around Giga Berlin. And they probably have more land lined up in Shanghai. So there's a lot to do in those 3 locations. And as he said, the goal was to be on the same continent as your customers and as your suppliers, and they've achieved that. There's not a lot of gain elsewhere compared to what they're accomplishing now. So dividends was a question. No current plan for dividends. I was stunned that this was actually a question. I don't know why people don't see this. Amazon does not have dividends yet, and Amazon is much further down the path than Tesla. Elon said that usually companies offer dividends when they're cresting the hill, when they don't have things to invest in anymore. Tesla has plenty. He said, we've not run out of things to invest in. They have plenty of places to invest in, so that's not an issue. So it's great to see 740 people watching so far. That's great. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to run back through the beginning of what I talked about. You know, there were some key details that I'm going to go back to those in a minute. Well, not in a minute, in 20 minutes or something like that. Again, thank you to the Vasa Law Firm. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com, stainless steel mugs at elonbits.com. Really quick, pump my book, Fair DUI. There's a link to that in the description below. And please check out, all the stuff's in the description below. Please check out The Daily Lie. It's my political channel where I try not to talk about politics on this channel at all, so don't push me on it. I'll almost ignore political questions on this channel. I did mention wokeism in the annual meeting, but maybe that was too much. So I don't think dividends are coming anytime soon. I don't think dividends are coming for 5 years, and probably after 2030 is when you would expect dividends. They are growing, they're investing in further growth. There is no reason to give out dividends to shareholders when you're investing. They need the cash to invest in further growth. It doesn't make sense to hand cash out to shareholders when you have valuable things to do with that investment here. I don't want dividends. I want them to grow the company. So, someone asked that Tesla give a quarterly update on what's going on with Tesla Energy, with solar, with batteries, with, you know, all that. And Elon just said, look, there's nothing to update because basically, he didn't put it this way, but basically Tesla Energy is sort of like this. It's like the black sheep. That's not the right term. Tesla Energy is subject to auto. The auto side of the business is much more important than the energy side right now. Ultimately, Tesla Energy will grow bigger, but the fact is the revenue and profits from auto are bigger than the revenue and profits from energy right now. The economy isn't necessarily ready. The number of solar panels that are being produced outside of Tesla, whatever, and the chips, the shortages that they're having on the supply chain, I mean, you can either produce one thing or you can produce another. And it just makes sense for Tesla to continue growing vehicle production rather than take that stuff and put it into solar and batteries. So that, once they get past the supply chain shortage, then he thinks they will move ahead to doing a quarterly update on energy. And every quarter they would say, this is how many vehicles we delivered, right? And how many vehicles we produced. So once they get past the supply chain shortages, he said, maybe we'll start doing quarterly delivery numbers and production numbers on Powerwall, Megapack, solar. So there was a question about Model 2, and Elon gave that short shrift. He said it's not a car. There is no Model 2, period. Please stop saying Model 2. People have been talking about Model 2 all the time. Thank you, Jim in Texas, for joining the channel. You can join the channel, and they get you if you look at some of the comments in the chat, you can see they have a little badge next to them. Those are channel members. So thank you for joining the channel. So Model 2 is not a car. There's no plan to do a Model 2. The only reason they named the Model 3 is because they wanted to name it the Model E, and Ford threatened to sue them, so they named it the Model 3 instead. So that's the only reason why it's a Model 3. So there's no plans to make a, quote, Model 2. I maintain my position that I call it the Battery Day vehicle. At Battery Day, they talked about a $25,000 vehicle. I believe that the Battery Day vehicle is actually a platform. It is a platform on which multiple vehicles will be produced. So there will be a hatchback for Europe. There will be a van, like a vehicle that can hold multiple people. There will be a cargo version of it. This is my take on it. I could be wrong, but my take on it is it's not going to be one vehicle. They're going to produce that in such high volumes. There can be multiple uses for it. It's going to be great. Thank you, Zachary, for your kind words. Cybertruck update. I just mentioned that a minute ago. Cybertruck will start production hopefully at the end of 2022. So no, it is not happening earlier. Predictions that people made that Cybertruck is happening earlier, not true, not happening. There was a question about factories and whether the next future of gigafactories will be bigger than Giga Texas. And he said not necessarily bigger. That the goal with the next generation gigafactories, if you watch, I did a video about this, but if you watch Elon's interview with Sandy Munro, I think if you search my channel for Munro, you'll see where I talk about that. There's a critical thing that's coming That's like the really big future for Tesla. Like Giga Texas is big, Giga Berlin is big, but there's something coming. My guess is 2024. Maybe they'll start in 2023. That Battery Day vehicle, I think, is being pushed back to 2024, by the way. But we'll see. But the Battery Day vehicle is not just about the vehicle. It's about the machine that builds the machine. I'm wearing the wrong T-shirt. This is the Tesla's the next Tesla T-shirt. The machine that builds the machine T-shirt is actually bigger in this context. The next generation gigafactories. This was, he talked about this in some depth. He talked about this with Sandy Munro as well. Not necessarily making the factories bigger, but making the use of space more efficient. So like a computer chip, you don't necessarily make the chip bigger. You cram the components closer together and you make the chip run faster. So you make the workings of the factory packed in tighter in the space, and you make the factory move faster and pump out more vehicles. That's the goal with the next generation of gigafactories. When he talked to Sandy Munro, he said we have to get Texas and Berlin in the middle of their ramps first before we can start thinking about the next generation gigafactory. It sounds like they're expecting that ramping to happen in 2022. So I think Tesla will start working on the next generation of gigafactories sometime in 2022, like scouting locations maybe. But I don't think we're going to, I think he's basically putting off, and this is expected with the supply chain slowing everything else. Of course, the next generation gigafactories and the Battery Day vehicle are being stalled. So I don't think we're going to see that happen until 2020. I don't think we're going to learn about it until 2023. I still have hopes that we will hear something about it late 2022. Like they'll do a next generation Gigafactory Day in late 2022. But given everything that's going on, I'm not that optimistic about it. But this is the key. After Giga Texas, after Giga Berlin, we're going to see next generation Gigafactories, which might not be bigger, but more efficient in the use of space and faster cycle time. The vehicles will come out faster. That's really important. Okay. Engineering talent. There was a question about engineering talent. And he talked a little bit about this, the challenges of finding great engineers that, they don't just want ordinary engineers. They want great engineers. There was this reference. It was funny. I have a friend who's been texting me tonight. We've been talking about, this friend wants to apply to SpaceX. And I was helping shape the resume. And so Elon, if you're watching, I'm sure you're not, but if you are watching, I'm going to be sending you a resume shortly of a friend. And Elon made this point that, their application process probably isn't that great. And he said, if Nikolai Tesla applied for a job at Tesla today, would he even get an interview? And he said, probably not, and that's not good. So he said what he really wants to see, it sounds like what he really wants to see in a resume is 3 bullet points that show exceptional ability. That's what he wants to see in a resume. So literally got texts from this friend saying, okay, now I know the resume has to have 3 bullet points at the top. I love it. So, because I'm going to send the resume directly to Elon rather than going through HR. It's a long shot that Elon's even going to read the email. But anyway, that's good stuff. This is a friend who is like crazy passionate about SpaceX's mission, crazy passionate about multiplanetary species, Mars, etc. So anyway, if you are an engineer with exceptional talent, please apply to Tesla and make sure you have 3 bullet points at the top of your resume that show you have exceptional ability. I think that's probably like one of the biggest takeaways here is I think a lot of people want to get involved. And same thing with SpaceX, same thing with Neuralink, same thing with Boring Company. Your resume should have 3 bullet points at the top if you're applying to any of Elon's companies that show your exceptional ability. 3 bullet points showing exceptional ability. Can't make that clear. That was brilliant. I love it. I don't know if the HR team at Tesla is looking at it the same way, but Elon talked about that. So, he was asked about a Tesla minibus, minivan, camper type thing. And Elon said, over time, he said this before, over time, Tesla will make all major variants. I genuinely believe that when the Battery Day vehicle comes out, when the Battery Day vehicle comes out, it will be a platform. There will be multiple variations of that vehicle, and they will serve multiple segments. Primarily, it's going to be a robo-taxi, so we're going to see a small vehicle version that takes, 1 or 2 or a few people from point A to point B at very low cost, very, very efficiently. That's the goal. Yes, I am about to hit that. Well, anyway, and then just so you know, Jessica, thank you for your comment. I've gotten as high as 1,400 on a live stream. So this, 1,000's great. I love having people watching. Thank you so much for watching. But I'm honestly, I'm so excited about this meeting. There wasn't a lot of new stuff. The biggest obvious news thing is Austin is going to be the new headquarters of Tesla. I'll go back through what some of the other big stuff was. But all right, let me keep going. So I think that when the battery day vehicle comes out, there will be different variants that will address different markets. It sounds like a larger van that could be used as a camper or minibus. It sounds like that's further down the road. I don't think that's going to be the battery day vehicle because that's going to be probably a smaller platform. Maybe once Cybertruck scales, they'll build something on that platform, but Cybertruck is pushed off to the end of 2022 for production, probably not going to deliver till 2023. Based on what we heard. Unless there's some radical change in the supply chain that things get better fast. So, Solar Roof. He had a question about Solar Roof. He said, I was a little surprised by this. He said, we're making rapid progress with Solar Roof. This was actually substantially new information, making rapid progress with Solar Roof, and especially making rapid progress with new home builders. The original plan with Solar Roof, as I heard it originally, was if you need a new roof on your house, they will take off the old roof and put on the new roof, and they thought that was going to be more efficient. Thank you, Pat, for your comment. And now he said, this is a shift. This is a shift for me. Solar Roof was originally about people who need new roofs. It was very clear there's like 5 million roof replacements a year in the United States. So Solar Roof for roof replacements. If you're going to replace your roof, you might as well replace it with Solar Roof. Now it sounds like the focus has shifted to new home builders. And Elon made this that they're making deals with new home builders to put Solar Roof and Powerwall on new home construction. That is I think the reason is that retrofit solar roofs are difficult because the roofs aren't designed for Tesla Solar Roof. And if they work with a new home builder, they can work to make sure that the roof itself is designed so that Solar Roof will be more effective with that roof. My house, we were looking at a Solar Roof project. There's thank you for joining the channel, Jessica. You can join the channel. Should be a link in the description below, or if you know how to join a YouTube channel, please join. My roof is very complicated, so complex roofs are more difficult for Solar Roof. There's more protrusions in different locations on a roof that make it difficult. If you design the house for Solar Roof, you probably design it so anything protruding through the roof is in the right place so that it doesn't interfere as much with doing a solar roof. So it sounds like that's coming, so we're going to see a bigger rollout of Solar Roof, but less so for existing homeowners and more for new home construction. And there's a lot of new home construction going on in the United States and around the world, so hopefully that's a big thing. He was asked about FSD Beta 10.2 tomorrow night. That is still on pace. If you have a 100 safety score, then you should expect to get your FSD Beta 10.2 midnight California time, just at the end of the, was it Friday night? Today's Thursday, so Friday night. Tomorrow, about, 30 hours from now, 35 hours from now, you should be getting your FSD Beta 10.2. And the focus right now is the most conscientious drivers. You need to watch. I've been in a car with FSD Beta running. You need to watch it closely because it makes mistakes and you have to be ready to intervene. And so they want the most conscientious drivers for the beta program. Eventually they'll expand it to more drivers. And he said that he drove to Giga Texas, a fairly long drive with 0 interventions. I would just say my own experience is that if it's just ordinary driving, then FSD Beta is great. If you want to get somewhere fast, then I think FSD Beta has challenges. Good question by 365 solved. And the 4 factories that exist now turn out 10 million vehicles a year. I think that Giga Texas alone will be 5 million or more a year. So I think between Giga Texas, Giga Berlin, Fremont, and Shanghai as they expand, yes, I think they could possibly get to 10 million a year on those alone. I was thinking they would be 6 million a year together, but I think it may actually be more than that. Okay. After seeing Giga Texas in person and seeing what they're doing, I think it's possible they'll get to more than that. Someone asked about when will we not need to do mining for batteries, with battery recycling. The problem is that the scale of the number of vehicles we need to produce is so large that if you recycle vehicles from batteries from old vehicles, it's not enough. We're going to need 100 million vehicles a year, and we don't have 100 million EVs yet to recycle. And if you recycle them, then you wouldn't have them in the fleet. They have to run through their useful life. So Elon was basically saying we're going to continue mining for battery materials for 30 or 40 years, if not longer. A great question. I love this question. Elon loved this question. How many years until Tesla has its first off-planet factory? And Elon loved the question. I guess it's amazing to see somebody ask a question that Elon hasn't thought about. And he said maybe 40 years. So I thought Tesla might have a factory on Mars in less than 40 years. I was thinking 20 years, but it looks like he's not in a hurry to put a factory on Mars yet, or the moon. Interesting question, kind of out of left field, but I loved it. Elon was asked about what his safety score is. Because if you're driving FSD, if you applied for FSD Beta, you're getting tracked for your safety score. And Elon said he doesn't know. He's not sure he has that on. He'll check and get back to us. Talking about somebody asked about Tesla doing energy projects in Texas. He says they have a large battery project in Houston area right now. He said 100 megawatts. I think he meant 100 megawatt hours, which would be 30 megapacks. I think 30 megapacks would be 100 megawatts. So that appears to be making progress. And they're talking to ERCOT, which is, I believe, an energy operator in Texas. They're talking to ERCOT about doing more in Texas. Texas obviously needs battery storage, as we saw when they had that big power outage. He was asked about the target capacity for the Megapack factory. Tesla announced that they have opened a new Megapack factory in Lathrop, California. Again, they're growing in California. They're not leaving California. He wasn't sure. He said it's big. He wasn't sure how big. And Drew Baglino from the audience, I heard Drew's voice, said 40 gigawatt hours. Now, 40 gigawatt hours, each Megapack is 3 megawatt hours roughly, unless they're changing them. So 10 would be 30 megawatts. So 10,000 megapacks a year would be 30 gigawatt hours. So it looks like we're talking about more than 10,000 megapacks a year, unless they've increased the capacity of Megapack. So 10,000 megapacks a year coming out of this Megapack factory in Lathrop. I don't think that's that much. 40 gigawatt hours is a lot, but they're looking to go to terawatt hours. So my guess is we're going to see a Megapack factory in China at some point. But again, they need parts, they need chips, they need supplies. So there's a lot of stuff holding that up. Great question about Tesla insurance. Elon described insurance as an insane regulatory labyrinth. For those who don't know, I'm an attorney. I worked for Allstate Insurance. Every state in the United States has its own regulations for insurance. Insurance in the United States is state by state. Every state has different insurance schemes, and you have to go through every state's regulatory system to offer insurance. Texas will have Tesla insurance next week. I think that was also Drew speaking. Maybe it was Zach Kirkhorn. I'm not sure. So very soon, Texas Tesla owners will be able to get Tesla insurance. And then most of the country next year, and they are trying to do California already has Tesla insurance, and they are trying to get California to let them offer an upgraded insurance product that takes into account your driving. So that's another challenge. So anyway, most of the United States, and I'm in Florida, and I got a Tesla, and my insurance is too expensive, and I would love that. So hopefully I will have access to Tesla insurance next year. If you own a Tesla, there's hope that Tesla insurance will be available next year. Great news. Hopeful. Who will license FSD? I don't think I took that in my notes. Elon wants to license FSD to other companies. He wasn't clear about the terms. I would assume that whatever they're going to charge Tesla customers for FSD, which is currently $10,000 a year, maybe what he meant is they would charge other manufacturers whatever the price is that they're charging Tesla customers for FSD, they would charge other companies that price for FSD. Maybe they would give them a volume discount. Who knows? So, thank you for bringing that up. 365 Solve. Thank you. Also a channel member. Thank you for being a channel member. I noticed the comments in the chats from the channel members and the moderators more because there's badges and they're colored. Their names are colored. So I'm more likely to notice those. ATV. This was kind of cool. I did not expect him to talk about the ATV. Someone asked him about it. This is the vehicle. When you had the Cybertruck presentation, there was this four-wheeler in the back of the Cybertruck. And he said they expect to make the ATV in Texas, and they want to make it the least dangerous ATV out there. It will have a low center of gravity because of the batteries being at the bottom, and combined with a suspension that will make it hard to roll. The most dangerous thing in an ATV is when it rolls and somebody gets crushed by their ATV. So it looks like that's a really good sign. And he was asked about electric planes, and he said maybe one day, but that sounds like it's 5 years off at the earliest. And he said they need better battery energy density, 450 to 500 watt hours per kilogram at the cell level, 400 at the pack level to make it practical. So I think the practical reality is the batteries just aren't ready yet. The battery technology is not there yet for electric Vtol, which Elon wants to do electric Vtol. If you saw the Iron Man movie, I don't know whether it was Iron Man 1 or Iron Man 2, there's a cameo appearance with Elon, and Robert Downey Jr., aka Tony Stark, talks to Elon about his idea for a Vtol jet. So Elon's been thinking about that for a long time. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to go through what Elon said. But before I do that, I'm just going to look at some questions and some Q&A, and then we'll come back and we'll look at that at the beginning. And by the way, I will be doing my regular live stream on Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, 10 a.m. California time. I think that's 7 p.m. London time or 6 p.m. London time. So let's see what we got here. Maybe they can put a gyro storage flywheel on an ATV to prevent it from rolling. I don't think a flywheel would be better for rolling. I don't know. That's crazy. I think the battery being low is a big deal. Have I done any modeling on Tesla insurance? No. So let me be clear about that. I don't think Tesla insurance will be a big revenue or profit generator for Tesla in the long run. I think on its own, in terms of revenue from insurance, I think having Tesla insurance makes it more cost effective for people to buy a Tesla because they can get cost effective insurance. In the long run, FSD doesn't have accidents and there's less to insure. So the claims go down and the price goes down. So the revenue ultimately, and really, if FSD is driving the car, Tesla is liable for what the car does, not the owner of the car. I don't like the level system, but once it's level 5 and the software is driving the car, Tesla's liable, not you. So I don't think the insurance side of the business is going to be a long-term factor in Tesla's revenue or profit. That's my take. Not that it's, this is mathematical modeling, economic modeling, stock modeling, not clothes modeling, but I will model the stainless steel water bottle and the t-shirts. It was Iron Man 2 in Monte Carlo. That's correct. Am I permanently moving to Texas? I am thinking about moving to Austin, Texas in 2 years after my daughter goes to college. So I also think about moving to Canaveral area. I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm probably going to move to the Austin, Texas area in 2 years. But I'm not 100%. And there's a lot of things that could come into play that could change my mind on that. But right now, that's what I'm thinking. Will I get the ATV when it comes out? Probably not. I'm not an ATV guy. I don't want to say never, but that doesn't seem like something that I would get into. Cybertruck. Cybertruck will be my ATV. Cybertruck is a great all-terrain vehicle. I'd rather be surrounded by bulletproof stainless steel. Any news on the stock split? He said no stock split. He said they're not thinking about a stock split anytime soon. Not that it won't happen. He said it'll eventually happen eventually, but not anytime soon. Will GM Hummer EV pass the Moose test? I don't think there's any chance in hell that 9,000-pound vehicle is going to pass the Moose test. Can Tesla cars access the Starlink internet? Not yet. I think it will happen in the future. Probably not the cars so much as, like larger vehicles, RVs, something like that. It doesn't make sense for cars to have Starlink internet. You could carry it in the back, and when you're parked or camping or something, maybe you could put it out there, but I don't think that's happening yet. Definitely something they're thinking about. Glad I am not the insurance company for Tiger Woods. I think Tiger probably self-insures. Who will license FSD from Tesla first? I don't think, this is the problem. So the idea of other car companies licensing FSD, the problem is that you basically have to admit to your customers that Tesla is operating your car. It's the same thing with charging at Tesla charging stations. It's like you're giving your competitor branding opportunity. And, people are like, well, why am I, they see all these Teslas there charging more efficiently. And they see, it's like having Intel Inside on your computer. You're just like basically throwing, giving, and not only is it Intel Inside, but it's like your competitor is the Intel Inside. It's not a good strategy. Thank you for your comment on the Lucid video. Yes, off planet could be the moon. Another bombshell was Elon's cost of unit declining. Does that mean a $25,000 Model 3 ultimately? I think that their cost of making the Model 3 and Model Y is probably getting to be less than $25,000, but to make a margin on them, no, I don't think that'll be a $25,000 Model 3 or Model Y. Right now, demand is so high, there's a lot of costs that they're facing, so I don't think we're going to see a $25,000 Model 3 or Model Y. I think it's that next generation vehicle. Need mortars for golf cart. I don't get that. What was Giga Texas like? Great question, Zachary. So I did a live stream from Giga Texas. It's just really, 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 really big. And I think the bigger takeaway that I got from Giga Texas and from Starbase was I was thinking about wearing this other t-shirt. I have a t-shirt that says innovate with extreme urgency. If you go to Giga Texas or you go to Starbase at any time, I was there Sunday at 8 p.m. There's people working. They never stop working. Starbase, the contract employees, the outside contractors are working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. The SpaceX employees are working more than that. We talked to one guy who's working like 18-hour days, 7 days a week. Crazy hours that they're working. And so what really, the first thing that grabs you is the size of Giga Texas, but the second thing that grabs you is the fact that they just don't stop. They're just working nonstop. I think the same thing's true at Giga Shanghai, that they've got like 4 shifts running. So that, 4 shifts means they're working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The factory's running. Pumping out vehicles, pumping out, growing building factories. They just don't stop. If you want to save the world, if you want to make radical change, if you want to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, make life multiplanetary, you have to innovate with extreme urgency. That means working crazy hours. And you have to recruit people who are willing to work crazy hours. It's one of the reasons why I think Elon likes to recruit veterans. Drew Baglino I was in a conversation with Drew Baglino and another guy, and they were talking about, the guy was talking about getting jobs for veterans, and Drew was really into it, talking about what kind of skills they needed. Veterans are used to working long hours for little pay, and you work for Tesla or SpaceX, you work long hours for great pay. Damian Weiss, do we have a video of our lousy Waymo robotaxi ride in Arizona? I do. I think I do have a video of it on my phone, but I don't know what I did with that. I'm sure I still have it on my phone. I just haven't published it yet. I will look at that. That's a great question, Damien. I just forgot about that. Let me make a note of that. Waymo ride video. Thank you, Damien, for that question. Hopefully I will remember that. You could email me that, Damien. I'd appreciate it. I will do that. Starlink for $99? I don't think so. What is my opinion on Fremont racism case for $178 million? Okay, so I don't remember that was the correct number. I think it was less than that. My opinion is that the media is overplaying the story. The story is that the jury verdict, not an order, the jury verdict said something like 130 million punitive damages, and maybe it was $9 million in underlying damages. I think that the judge in the court, the judge there who heard the case is probably going to knock those damages down dramatically. The 9 million will probably get knocked down to 2 million or 5 million or something like that. I don't know. And then the punitive damages under the Supreme Court can't be more than 10x the underlying damages, and maybe can't be more than 1x unless there's something really egregious, and I don't think we have the egregious stuff here, so it's probably going to get knocked down to like 10 million. And then Tesla's probably going to appeal. So that's just my opinion. Not my area of law, but I have done some employment law. I did study this in law school. I took a class where we talked about it. I have read some stuff about it. I am pretty familiar with it. I think that it's a big number. The newspapers, the media loves to talk about some big number, but it was not an order. Judges issue orders. Juries do not issue orders. The jury issued a verdict. The judge will review the verdict. There'll be motions, post-trial motions, and the judge will almost certainly reduce that verdict to a much lower number. So I wouldn't worry about that. That's just media getting a headline because it sounds like a big number. Paul says, I noticed Tesla cars are a little heavier than regular cars. Would the Tesla semis be more heavier than others on the scales, 80 tons total? Okay, 80 tons, not 80 tons, it's 80,000 pounds is the weight limit for the semi plus the cargo. And I believe that the goal with Tesla semi is, when you get the 4680 high nickel cells in enough volume, I believe the goal is to get it close so that you can carry almost the same payload as a diesel-powered vehicle. And then I believe some jurisdictions are letting them carry extra cargo because they're EVs and they're better for the environment. So I believe they will effectively be. But the Tesla cars maybe they're a little heavier than regular cars. They're actually not that heavy. It's surprising how efficient Tesla's getting. And when we hit structural battery pack with Model Y, the weight is going to drop dramatically. It's going to be really competitive on weight. And they're much lighter than other EVs. I mean, we just saw that Lucid Air is now 5,200 pounds. Tesla Model S long range is like under 4,600 pounds. It's a 650 pound difference or so. So Jim Whitehead says many punitive damage multipliers go up to about 3 times the base damage. There is a Supreme Court decision that I think says unless there's something really egregious in the case, then the cap is really 1x. That the punitive damages can't be more than 1x the regular damages. And I didn't see anything particularly egregious in what happened. But I'm biased. I don't know. Speaking of law, how fast do I see EVs, FSD, and Tesla insurance killing off the massive auto injury attorney industry? Great question, TN. So if you search my channel for, I believe the title of the video is Industries That Tesla Will Destroy. I talk about this very issue in that video. Not only auto industry, not only the personal injury lawyer industry, but also criminal defense. All the DUIs are gone. All the suspended registrations are gone. All the suspended licenses are gone. More than half of criminal cases start with a traffic stop. And if vehicles are driving themselves, you end up with no reason to stop vehicles. Drug cases are often a rise out of a traffic stop. So we're going to see a massive hit to the entire legal industry when robotaxi really is. It's going to take several years before robotaxis are a significant share of vehicles on the road and self-driving vehicles are a significant share on the road. But once we get there, it's a massive hit. I told a friend of mine who's a personal injury lawyer, because I'm basically retired. I told a friend of mine, and he was like, he didn't get angry. He almost got like depressed, and then he decided he didn't want to talk to me anymore because it's so compelling how devastating this is going to be to the legal industry. I love that question. Thank you, TN. Let's see. Now that Tesla will honor the price for solar roofs in the original contracts, are you going to install a solar roof? No, I haven't received any notice of that in my house. We decided not to go forward with a solar roof, and we already have most of our new roof on. Our new roof is basically on. The tiles are sitting on top of the roof. They're regular tiles, concrete tiles. We're waiting for the roofer to spread them out, and we're basically done. So it doesn't make sense to tear off a perfectly good new roof to replace it with a solar roof. In theory, we would do solar panels, but we are going to sell this house in about 2 years. So, maybe next property. And my vision is 2 years from now, I'm building solar apartment housing in Austin, Texas, and I'm living in that. And that will have solar panels rather than solar tiles. Because unless solar roof tiles end up becoming effective, maybe solar roof will make more sense, but I don't think so. Yes, he said they will license FSD. Possibly, I definitely want to license FSD for my pod car. I am excited about that. He said it a couple times now. But I'm worried that the cost of Tesla FSD will be more expensive and others will be better. So let's see. I don't think is it 40? Yeah, 40 tons, right. With up to date, how much dollars a share do I think Tesla will be worth in 2030? Great question, Maxime. So I haven't done a new model with Tesla Bot yet. My bear case for Tesla in 2030 is $8,000 a share. That's like if everything goes wrong. That's like if everything massively underperforms what I expect to happen, $8,000 a share in 2030. We're now 6 months or a year after I made that, and frankly, I think things have gone well. I think things are going better than what the bear case would have said. It's still early yet. So I would say probably a minimum of $10,000 a share in 2030. My base case, my like regular case for 2026 is $20,000 a share or $25,000 a share in 2026. So I think $50,000 a share in 2030 is reasonable. $100,000 a share is probably a stretch. But if Tesla Bot turns into something serious, then we could be over $100,000 a share in 2030. And we've got AI training as a service. There's a whole lot in there that's hard to model. But I really think we're going to see $20,000 a share in 2026 and $150,000 a share in 2030. And then there's the potential for, right now, Wall Street undervalues Tesla. At some point, Tesla becomes the big dog, and Wall Street could swing and overvalue Tesla. So that's when I would conceivably sell, is if I think it's worth $20,000 a share in 2026 and the Wall Street swings the other way and values it at 40. We'll see. I have to, make that judgment at the time, but I'm just saying that's a scenario I could see happening. So, see. All right. Sorry, I'm just looking at the questions. Who do I feel is the closest competitor to Tesla? Lucid, Rivian, GM, or Ford? That's a great question. I don't think that any of the companies you mentioned are going to be significant competitors to Tesla going forward. Most likely, it will be somebody out of China. BYD is a candidate. NIO is a candidate. I don't know enough about XPeng. I think that Chinese manufacturers have lower cost structures and they have less bureaucratic and other, like GM and Ford have legacy problems with dealerships and unions and other issues that make it difficult. Same thing with Volkswagen, same thing with Toyota. They have a lot of like old hangovers from the way the industry used to be that's hard for them to get past. and they have massive debt. So it has to be something like a startup or something that doesn't face the same hurdles that the legacy automakers have. BYD, I don't know enough about the Chinese companies to see, but I think BYD, NIO is certainly doing reasonably well. I'm not a fan of everything about those companies, but I think they have a better shot of succeeding on large scale in the future than GM, Ford, Volkswagen. Lucid Motors, I don't think their business plan works. Rivian has a very limited space where they can succeed with their vehicles, and they're very, very heavy. The Rivian vehicles are like 7,000 pounds curb weight. I think Cybertruck's going to be less than 5,000 pounds. So I don't see a lot of competition there. I think low cost vehicles coming out of China are the most likely significant competitors to Tesla. And I'm not even sure they'll be able to compete. I think Tesla could end up being like the monster, the 800 pound gorilla, and everybody else is tiny and finding little niches. Paul Money says, would Tesla ever make a plain Jane cheap EV car around $5,000 for low income families? I think that those low income families will choose to ride in robo-taxis rather than own a vehicle. I think the idea of a world where people own vehicles is going to shift to just ride in robo-taxis and don't worry about owning a vehicle. Glenn Nichols disagrees with me about nobody in the US will be a competitor to Tesla. Massive debt means nothing if they've been in debt for decades and are still in business. No, the problem is that if their revenue declines while they have massive debt, then they can't make their interest payments. And then this is the problem with the legacy automakers. Okay, so they have massive debt. As Tesla grows, they cut into revenue for the other companies. And the other companies are already having massive cuts to revenue because of their supply chain problems. And they can't keep up with their interest payments, and they go bankrupt, and governments bail them out. And when the governments bail them out, they put even more strings on how they operate than they already have from the unions and the dealerships and everything else. And it just becomes a bigger mess. I just don't see them succeeding. Naveen says, what Lucid business plan doesn't work? Lucid is planning, if you read their slide deck from the SPAC merger, the slide deck from the SPAC merger, they're basically expecting to sell, if they're not, their SPAC merger proposes to sell 100,000 units at an average selling price of $100,000 a year. And I don't think the market will support that. And it's not clear that, first of all, they haven't delivered a vehicle to a customer yet, but if you follow their plan to make 100,000 vehicles a year and then 250,000 vehicles a year with very, very high average selling price, I don't think the market's going to support that. Maybe I'm wrong. I also think that the Mercedes EQS is going to be a substantial competitor to Lucid's vehicle. Plaid model, the Mercedes EQS and S-Class, whatever, but the EQS in particular. I think that the Tesla Model S is a significant competitor to Lucid. And if you were going to, why would you really buy a Lucid Air over a Model S? I think there's a small percentage of the population that would rather have of the population that can afford those vehicles that would choose a Lucid Air of a Model S. I don't see it. But, I could be wrong. I want them to, I'm critical of them, but I want them to succeed. Okay. All right, so let me go back. I'm going to come back to the Q&A in a second, but I want to go back to what happened in the meeting for people who joined late. So, because we have 1,200 people in the viewing now. So, I'm going to skip over the board votes. I don't think the board votes were they weren't very exciting. They were exceedingly boring, and I don't think they were very important. We'll find out the final vote later. Kimball Musk, and the biggest news was that Kimball Musk and James Murdoch Jr. were both re-elected to the board, or elected to the board as the board wanted. There were a couple other details. There was a lot of boring nonsense, annoying stuff in there. So Elon, let's get back to, so Elon made a presentation about what's happened and what's going forward. And one of the biggest things that he said was that he expects, despite all the supply chain challenges, despite all the problems that we're seeing in the marketplace and everything else, he expects that growth will be at least above 50% for a while. And we are looking at 80% growth year on year from 2020 to 21 right now. We are on pace for probably, I didn't think we were going to hit 900,000 vehicles in 2021, but third quarter hitting 240,000 vehicles really bodes well for hitting 900,000 vehicles in 2021 total for the year. 387 plus 240. I think they're going to hit I think if the number was 270 in the fourth quarter, that would put them to 900. I forget if that was the number they need to hit. So looking really good for 900,000. That's an 80% growth year on year. And then if they do that again next year, I forget how much that is. It's 1.6 million maybe. And I think we may see bigger growth than that next year. Just it's the constraints of the supply chain that may hold them back. I think they could hit 2 million in 2022 if all goes well. So let's see. So he said this before, but he reemphasized this. He expects Model Y to be the best-selling vehicle in the world by revenue in 2022. Just checking on the dog. Where's Charlotte the Wonder? Petting the puppy. Um, my dog is beating her tail on the floor. I don't know if you can hear that. So Model Y will be the oh, thank you for your support, Team JG. Model Y should be the best-selling vehicle by revenue globally in 2022 and the best-selling vehicle by units in 2023. That means Elon still thinks they're going to hit 1.5 million Model Ys in 2023. Now, if you figure he's aiming for 1 million Model Ys in 2022, and then you've got Model 3 production in 2022, we're not going to have Cybertruck. You're going to have S and X. I think there's a chance we see 2 million units in 2022. Judging by his numbers, hard to read that. I still think there's a shot at that. Supply constraints are not going to ease in 20. Marlan says supply constraints are not. I think supply constraints might ease in 2022. They won't be fully resolved in 2022. So, and by the way, the chip shortage is particularly a problem for the legacy automakers who use old chips, and chip companies don't want to make new factories to make old chips. So they have to shift to new generation chips. Tesla's already using new generation chips, so their supply chain shortage for chips is not as bad as the other companies. So, other big news, $4.2 billion in free cash for the last 4 quarters. That means Tesla took in $4.2 billion more in revenue in cash than they spent. That's really good for a company. It's really good to have more money coming in. That's a big number. That is a sign that they have more money that they can invest in their business. It's a sign that the business is going well. So, cost reduction, gross margins are up while average selling price is down. I said this before for people already watching, but Tesla, because there's been a shift in production from Model S and Model X, which are high-priced vehicles, to Model 3 and Model Y, which are relatively lower-priced vehicles, the average selling price per vehicle has come down a bit with Tesla. But because they're so efficient in their manufacturing, the margins, the profit per vehicle on a percentage basis is actually up. Normally, when you have a low-priced product, it's harder to make high margins on a low-priced product, but Tesla is doing so well at their manufacturing that's getting better, and that's going to get even better once Giga Berlin opens. It like radically reduces costs because they no longer have to ship vehicles from Fremont or Shanghai to Europe, and that saves a ton on shipping costs. It saves on tariffs. It saves on other things. It reduces the time from factory to customer, so you get that has its own set of costs and other issues. So we're going to see a radical increase in profitability from Tesla next year, once Giga Berlin goes online in particular. And Giga Texas will help with that. But Giga Texas is, you have a combination of increased volume of vehicles and increased margins. You're going to see radically increased profits. Really quick, it wasn't part of the meeting, but Gary Black predicted, I think, something like $5.80 a share in earnings per share for the year for 2021. And I thought he was like, maybe it was $8 a share or $10 a share for 2022. If you follow my interview with James Stevenson and my interview with Mayor Thacker, Tesla's earnings per share, I think, will hit $7 a share this year for the fiscal year 2021. And I think we're going to see $15 or more per share in 2022, possibly $20 a share in 2022, because they're going to become inherently much more profitable and they're going to scale production so much. So we're going to see huge, huge increases in profits in this company in the next year and a half. Yeah. So next year and 3 months, really. Okay. Giga Shanghai exceeded. This was another piece of news. Giga Shanghai produced more vehicles than Fremont. That I did not see that coming. I knew that Giga Shanghai was increasing rapidly. I did not know they were producing more than Fremont. On top of that, Elon said that they expect to increase Fremont production by 50%. So I don't know what he meant by that, because stated capacity for Fremont is 600,000 vehicles a year, 500,000 of, well, it's 500,000 Model 3s and Ys and 100,000 S's and X's. And Elon has suggested that Model S and X production will actually go over that 100,000. So I think he said maybe 2,500 a week, which would put it up around, not 150,000, but it's getting close to 150,000. I think it is close to 150,000 a year. So I don't know whether he meant that total capacity will go up to 900,000 from Fremont, but that's what it sounded like to me. That's the optimistic view of it. And then Giga Shanghai, maybe that means Giga Shanghai makes $1 million a year, and this is more, this is bigger than my previous predictions for Giga Shanghai and Fremont were together. They would produce 1.5 million a year ultimately, and now it sounds like they might hit 2 million a year together. So that creates more potential for more growth for Tesla. And Giga Nevada, he also expects to increase output by 50%. So that's great news. Elon made a prepper reference to having the combination of solar and Powerwall and Starlink, meaning when there's a massive power outage, you will still have solar, you will still have electricity, you will still have internet, and if you have Cybertruck, you'll still have bulletproof protection against the zombie apocalypse. Factory safety improved, really significant improvements in factory safety, and that's going to continue to get better. And then there are two more big pieces of news from the presentation. Number one, AI Day was very successful at its goal, which was to increase recruitment of qualified people to help with the Tesla AI team. And we had a 100-fold increase in applications for jobs with the AI team. That is great. That means they will be able to scale what they're doing with artificial intelligence. That is going to be a big part of the company going forward. It's already a big part of the company, but it's going to be an even bigger part of the company. That is a really challenging thing to model. If you haven't seen it, ARK Invest had a white paper. I think it's a Big Ideas white paper, and they talked about AI training as an industry being a very, very large industry in the future. And Tesla looks like they're heading to be the leader in that industry. So that's just another thing. They're not just a car company. They are basically an artificial intelligence company, a software company, etc. And huge, huge gain there. That is a big jump. That means we're going to see big things out of artificial intelligence out of Tesla. And the big thing was that Tesla headquarters moved to Austin, Texas. I'm not going to go through the Q&A from the meeting again because we've already covered that with most people are watching. Let's see. I'm going to look at questions in the chat again. So Steven says, so excited, should I buy at current price? So I am not a professional investment advisor. I'm not here to give professional investment advice. I'm a fan of Tesla. I'm a fan of Elon Musk, and I'm excited about the company. I will say that I have been buying stock in Tesla since 2016, February 2016. I have not sold a share yet. I'm not selling a share. I have continued buying. I bought fairly recently. But your situation may be different than mine, and I can't tell you whether to buy or sell stocks. You should talk to a professional investment advisor. Talk to Bradford Ferguson and Halter Ferguson Financial. Talk to Russ Gerber, Gerber Kawasaki. Talk to someone else. There are some great investment advisors out there that you can talk to. Not my place to do that. Will front gigacasting free up space at Fremont? Warren Erickson, us Warren's got to stick together, Warren. I believe that is correct. I believe that as they shift over, right now they're not doing front gigacastings. They're doing gigacast. They're casting the rear piece of the Model Y at Fremont. Ultimately, I would expect that they will cast front and rear of Model Y and front and rear of Model 3 at Fremont, and that will free up space, and they will be able to increase their output, and that's why they could achieve 50% more production there. I don't make short-term stock price predictions. I do feel very strongly that my long-term forecasts for $20,000 a share in 2026 and, $50,000 a share potentially in 2030, I still feel very strongly that those are accurate. So Tesla workers' options are better than matching stocks. Yeah, I think Tesla workers, if you're a Tesla employee, they get some, I don't know the full story, but I believe they get options priced at the lowest share price for the quarter. So I think it's a great deal for Tesla workers, but I don't know enough about it to say more. When is my best guess for when the Austin Model Y goes live? Based on what Elon said today, they will be delivering vehicles by December, if not November. So Elon worries that they wouldn't have given Nikolai Tesla the time of day if he applied for a job. He wants to make sure that their HR process does catch the Nikolai Teslas. So let me repeat what I said before. If you are applying for a job with Tesla, if you are applying for a job with SpaceX, your resume should start with 3 bullet points showing your exceptional ability. That is what Elon said, for engineers at least. That is what Elon wants for engineers. So presumably that would be a big thing. It was very clear that that's what he wants to see. So 3 bullet points at the top of your resume showing exceptional ability. Then you're more likely to get hired. Assuming that instruction gets down to HR. Will gigacastings find its way to Model 3 when Texas opens? I would think that when they... First of all, I don't think they're producing Model 3 in Giga Texas anytime soon. But I think when they produce Model 3 in Giga Texas, yes, it will be front and rear castings. It wouldn't make sense to do otherwise. Did it seem like 4680 cell production has been ironed out? It sounds like, well, that question wasn't really asked the right way, or he didn't answer that question if it was asked the right way. It sounds like Fremont is producing 4680 cells in significant volume. He said, what did he say? What did my notes say? He said that they are making enough 4680s in Fremont for Giga Texas to scale Model Y. More than enough for Giga Texas to scale Model Y. So my impression is that by the time Model Y is scaled enough that it needs more cells, that Texas will be producing enough 4680s. So they are definitely doing well on that. Yes, Warren in the middle name is good enough. We'll take it. Thank you, Michael Chapman. Do Tesla Chinese workers get Tesla stock options? I don't know. I would think so, but I don't know for sure. 7 bullet points at the top. You got to show exceptional ability. Would Tesla have hired Elon 20 years ago? That's the point. 20 years ago, there was no Tesla 20 years ago, was there? I don't think Tesla existed 20 years ago. I mean, an Elon 20 years younger? I don't know. Would he have worked for Tesla 20 years ago? He would have started his own company. He wouldn't want to work for somebody else. Let's see. I'm looking for questions in the chat here. And just a quick reminder, t-shirts at elonbits.com, stainless steel water bottles at elonbits.com. Check out my book, Fair DUI, if you want to know what happens in a traffic stop. All these are linked in the description below. Please support the channel on Patreon. Thanks to the Vasa Law Firm in Sweden, all my Patreon supporters for helping the channel grow. Patreon supporters get early access to some videos. So a couple of my recent videos, if you were a Patreon supporter, if you were a YouTube channel member at the exclusive content level or above, or if you're in the Daily Lie, so if you're a paid supporter of the Daily Lie, you get early access to some videos, you get bonus content, and you get questions for the Sunday live stream. Links to all of that in the description below. So let's see. And the Daily Lie is my political channel where I talk about politics, which I will not talk about on this channel because I don't trust YouTube not to censor me over it. So TN asks, how soon will Tesla break the $1,000 resistance barrier? I don't think in those terms. I literally, that kind of concept of like technical analysis, I just don't buy it. I don't buy it at all. So I don't have any opinion about resistance barriers or charts or anything like that. I'm interested in the long-term success of the company in producing vehicles and getting FSD working, in producing Tesla Bot, and getting energy storage going and solar going. I'm interested in the business side of Tesla and how that should translate to share price, recognizing that Wall Street doesn't necessarily care about how I think the fundamentals of the company should translate to share price. And so the share price doesn't always reflect what I think should happen with the share price, because I'm saying what the stock should be worth based on fundamentals, and other people think about other things. Yen Hanglin, great question. How much taxes can Tesla save after moving headquarters to Texas? I don't know the answer to that question. I think it's significant, but I'm not sure. Hollow bullet points. Hollow point bullets, yeah. Yeah, I don't think Giga Shanghai is getting grilled over diversity. I think they have a lot of Chinese workers at Giga Shanghai. I don't think they hire very many African Chinese workers, or I don't think wokeism is a big thing in China. Alex, I don't understand your question about solar roof, meaning solar panels and solar singles or only solar panels. I believe what Elon talked about in response to a question in the Q&A was he was talking about solar roof for being taking off. Solar roof is taking off for home builders, for new homes being built. Uranium tipped points. You need uranium tipped bullet points. That's what you need. Vikran, he talked about licensing FSD to other car makers. That was refreshing for me because I'm planning to make a single passenger EV, and hopefully I will be able to license Tesla FSD for that. All right. Okay, so I don't see a lot of new questions, and we're getting more into jokes than questions. So let me just see if there's any. I'm scrolling back. Would the use of casting result in an increase in insurance premiums? This is a great question. The answer to your question is no, Ismail. He asked whether the use of gigacastings in vehicle production, in Model Y in particular, and ultimately in the other vehicles, would the use of castings result in an increase in insurance premiums as fixing would be difficult? That is misguided. the castings are in places where the frame of the vehicle would be, and if the frame is damaged, the frame is damaged, and you usually total a vehicle, whether it's a giga casting being damaged or not. My understanding is that the giga castings are actually less likely to be damaged in that kind of crash than regular framing would be. So it's actually less likely to be a problem, and there's likely to be a decrease in insurance premiums because the vehicles are better made. And Elon has even said at one point that they're going to use the information they get from insurance to ultimately make the cars better so that they have less damage when they have a crash. And of course, FSD is going to mean fewer crashes. Just looking at questions here. Furthermore, production says, are my price targets for 2025 to 30 still in line based on the investor info? Yes, I feel that my optimistic views for 2026 and 2020 and 2030 are actually bolstered by everything I've heard so far. Not just today, but it sounds like 4680 cell production is moving as it should be. That's really good news. I think everything's going well. All right, let me go and see if there's any new questions here. How would Tesla price their FSD to other companies? The way I heard Elon talking about it, I think FSD would be licensed to other companies at roughly the same price that Tesla sells it to customers. So if Tesla is selling FSD to a customer for $10,000, they would license it to another company for $10,000. Maybe they'll do a volume discount. Maybe the price of FSD is going to go up. It's an interesting question. I'm not sure how they will put that into practice. How does GM's hand-free Super Cruise compare to Tesla's Autopilot and FSD? What metrics would you use to compare the products? It's an interesting question, Damien. The really simple answer is that FSD Beta goes basically anywhere. And GM's Cruise or Super Cruise or all these other products that have Blue Cruise or whatever from Ford, they're very limited in where they operate. And there was I forget which company it was. They were driving on an interstate highway and it was going around a curve that was too sharp and it couldn't handle it. I have seen Tesla FSD Beta handle almost any situation you can imagine. Is it perfect at all those situations? No, but Tesla FSD is designed to work anywhere, and the other companies' products are not. So they're all way behind. Did Tesla Insurance start as an up-and-coming thing? Tesla Insurance exists in California, and it's starting in Texas next week. And then it'll be available in most of the country next year. Declan Murphy. Hi, Declan. Nice to see you in the chat. Declan and I are friends on Clubhouse. If you're not in Clubhouse, Tesla Universe, check it out. He said, from what Elon said, do I think the next factories are further away than we thought? So it depends what you mean by the next factories. I think the next locations outside of the ones we know about are further away than I thought. It sounds like they're going to start scouting locations maybe next year, and we won't hear about future factory locations until 2023. Now, with that said, I think expansion of production in the existing locations that we know about is more than enough to achieve the kind of growth we're hoping for. And ultimately, I think the 4 locations we know about could conceivably produce as many as 10 million vehicles a year. So, if the goal is 20 million vehicles in 2030, which I think that's sandbagging, then, the fact that we don't get new locations until 2023 or 2024 is no big deal. Not a big issue. The big news is how much potential production there is in the factories that we know about. That Fremont will scale 50% from where it is, that Shanghai is continuing to scale, that the potential for Texas is off the charts how many vehicles that can produce. And there's room around Giga Texas and Giga Berlin for more space. Vince Stilla says, Warren, do you have any caps in your merch? No, I use Teespring, and so far Teespring does not offer hats. I'm disappointed in that. I've asked for hats. I made my own hats on, what is it called? On some other site. I can't think of it. Vistaprint. And they don't really look that good. So we'll see. I haven't seen hats. If Teespring offers hats, I'll do them. And that will be in elonbits.com, but they're not there yet. When will FSD be ready for prime time? FSD Beta is really, really good. There's a lot of discussion within the Tesla community. Here's what I see for FSD Beta, the hurdles that I see. And I have a fair amount of experience with FSD Beta now. Not as much as the FSD Beta testers by far, but I have a fair amount of experience with it. Big hurdles are, number one, right now, FSD Beta there's FSD Beta for regular roads. There's highway FSD, which is a different FSD, or navigate on autopilot for highways. And there's parking lot FSD, or parking lot, whatever stack that is. Those three are going to merge. Probably not tomorrow, but maybe version 11. Those are going to merge. There's going to be one stack to rule them all. The changeover from one stack to another, I think, is one of the areas where there are problems. So having it all in one stack will help. The other big hurdle that I see with FSD is its interaction with navigation. That it's using some sort of software with Google, probably Google Maps, to navigate, and the navigation is sometimes wrong, and the FSD doesn't know how to deal with it when navigation says that when you're driving down the road, right, and you're passing this spot, and the entrance is here, but navigation tells you to enter there, then FSD chokes on it. So they have to get that better, and I think that will come with time. And I think it'll be fairly quick. The hat that makes the hat, yeah. Declan says that there have been scouting for new factories this year. Elon said no. I mean, I don't think they're scouting. If Elon said it the way he said it, then they're not seriously scouting for factory locations yet. They may be looking at some places, but they're just not ready. They've got supply chain shortages, and they've got factories they need to scale. It doesn't make sense to start building new factories until you've made progress in the ones you have. And Giga Texas has so much potential. Crazy. Thoughts on Tesla raising costs? I think you mean raising prices. Elon said that they had to raise prices because their supply costs have gone up. They ideally will lower prices in the future when they're able to scale and when the supply chain resolves. Does moving headquarters to Austin give tax advantage to Tesla? I think so, but I don't know. Was Tesla bot serious? Why no mention of it? He said they're going to have a prototype next year. The next year or 2023. Tesla bot's a way off. There was no reason to mention it now. Nobody asked about it, and it's not part of the annual report. That's not down the road. They just did Tesla bot. What battery shortage? With battery shortage and no new gigafactory, when do I think Tesla will be able to produce 20 million a year? I now doubt 20 million a year before 2030. This is Francois. No, I mean, the existing factories they have, the 4 locations we know about, with what they have, should be close to 10 million a year. And if you wait till 2023 or 2024 to start building new locations and new factories and the next generation factory, Elon talked at some length about the next generation factory being more efficient by volume and produce and higher velocity, just like new chips. He seems really serious about that. If the current set of factories look likely to be able to produce close to 10 million vehicles a year between them, and 2024 or so, we're going to start seeing new factories that are more efficient than that, then 20 million a year is going to be easy. James Breckheisen, thank you for your support. MC asked, should Tesla stay out of Democrat-run states? Great question. Would love to hear your thoughts. I don't think that's an important issue. And Tesla is growing in California. So I think it is likely that they will. First of all, we have 2 locations in the United States. I don't think any new locations are coming in the United States anytime soon. They certainly want to sell vehicles in Democrat-run states. So I think that we should probably avoid partisan talk on this channel. And if you're interested in politics talk, please join my channel, The Daily Lie. There's a link in the description below where I mainly talk about propaganda, but partisan stuff probably comes up a little bit. And if you're saying the things that you guys are saying in the chat, then you'll probably like The Daily Lie at least a little. Eventually, I'll say something you won't like because I hit on Republican and Democrat things. Dan Rich says $25,000 vehicles are coming in 2023, so they must be built in new factories, correct? No, well, number one, I don't know if the 2025, if the battery day vehicle really is coming in 2023. I think with everything being delayed, I think that vehicle is probably being put off to 2024, but I could be surprised by that. And I think there's plenty of room in Giga Texas to build them there. I think that they probably won't be built in Giga Texas. I think it will be built somewhere else, or they'll build a next generation Gigafactory in Austin. That will be a separate structure, but I'm not sure. Giga Texas is so big they could do who knows what they could do there. Mark Potachnik says he gets his custom hats on AliExpress. So the problem is if I get custom hats, then I have to send them to people when they buy them. With what I use with Teespring, it's like Teespring takes care of all that. Link in the description. Link to Elon Bits in the description below if you want my merch. Sorry. Here's a question about Cybertruck and Robotaxi. Mike says, I'm putting my Cybertruck on the taxi network. I'm wondering if you think they're going to be disengaging the driving abilities of passengers because I don't want a drunk idiot to try to go on a joyride. I don't think Robotaxi will take people through a pasture. So it's an interesting question. I don't mean by the taxi network. If you mean, what's it called? There's a service where you can Turo. You mean Turo? I don't know. I don't think that's going to be something they're going to do. And you know, I just Turoed a vehicle and took it on a beach. Would you allow that? Here's some more. Somebody else supporting. Thank you, Francois Couture. Thank you for your support. And we talk about politics. Politics are on the Daily Line. We'll talk about politics on the Daily Line. Maybe I'll do a video tomorrow. We'll see about that. Does Tesla make a lot of money with battery packs? I don't think Tesla makes money with battery packs. I think that's misguided. Tesla uses battery packs to make money with vehicles and with Powerwall and things like that. No questions on Tesla bot. Did not come up. It doesn't make sense to ask questions about Tesla bot. We just learned about it. Does Tesla make a lot of money in battery storage? Not yet. I think auto is about 85% of revenue for Tesla, and all other revenue is like 15% of revenue. I don't think battery storage is that big a chunk of revenue yet, but it will be in the future. They just opened a Megapack factory that's going to be producing 40 gigawatt hours, so I should do that number. If they're going to do 40 gigawatt hours of Megapacks, and their revenue per gigawatt hour is 300 million. The revenue per kilowatt hour is $300. No, the revenue per kilowatt hour is $600. I think it's $300 per kilowatt hour per Megapack. So $300 per kilowatt hour, $300,000 per megawatt hour, $300 million per gigawatt hour, times 40 gigawatt hours. That's like $12 billion a year from Megapack. That's not bad. And then AutoBidder probably generates some extra revenue, and then you got Powerwall, so $12 billion a year. But you know, we're gonna see close to 60 billion, 55 billion a year, 55 billion a year this year in revenue. 52 billion, I think I got my number at. And then next year it's gonna be like 120 billion. So 12 billion just isn't that much. It's gonna take a little bit of while to scale Megapack. So hopefully by 2023, that factory will be going full out at 40 gigawatt hours. Yen Hangling says Japan likes small cars. Maybe good to have a gigafactory in Japan. I think Giga Osaka is a likely factory location for a lot of reasons, but I don't think we're going to see it. Rick Deckard says, did you see Lucid's trunk? Yes, I've talked about Lucid's trunk. Lucid's trunk is barely larger than a Model 3 trunk, much smaller than a Model S trunk. If you were going to spend all that money on a Lucid Air, why wouldn't you get a Model X? I don't know. Will you buy me a Tesla? I'll be your friend. No. Yes, I still don't believe in Lucid. I just made a video about Lucid. I just made a video on the channel about Lucid. Just published it. Let's see. And thank you to the moderators for deleting these messages. Let's stay out of I want to stay out of politics. I don't want to get into it. Thank you, Mark, for covering that. If you want to talk politics, the Daily Lie, link in the description below. All right. So I think we've exhausted the questions. Let me see if there's any new questions. Yeah, I don't talk about right to repair. Thank you for Carl for pointing that out. Daily Lie is its own channel. It's warrenredlick.locals.com. It's not on YouTube. YouTube is the purpose of the Daily Lie being on Locals is because Locals is a free speech zone. YouTube tends to. I literally do not talk about politics on this channel at all because I don't want to get demonetized. I don't want to have problems with YouTube. So I don't feel free to talk about my political views on YouTube. And honestly, half my audience doesn't like my political views, if not 80%. So I talk about it somewhere else. Jeffrey Evans says, why has Nevada stopped increasing size? That is not accurate. Elon said in the annual meeting in response to a question that he expects Giga Nevada to increase 50%. So Giga Nevada is still growing. So, all right. I think we've gone long enough. It's 8:23. I don't remember what time we started. What time did we start? How long have we been going? No idea how long we've been going. I've been going for so long, I don't even know how long we've been going. Let's see. We started at, I think we've been going for well over an hour, maybe an hour and a half. So I think it's time. Let me just check quick if there's anything else in the chat. What will send us above the 800 mark? I do not. I think today should have sent us above the. I think we should be at the 2,500 mark now. So I'm not the guy to talk to about short-term stuff. Thoughts about Apple? You were talking about Tesla. My opinion on Apple. I think that. So I guess my question, when people ask me about other companies, my simple answer is I look at Tesla and I see a company that's currently trading around $800 a share. And I think ultimately it should already be at $2,500 a share. And I think it's heading to 20,000 a share in about 5 years. It's my opinion, not professional investment advice, just my opinion. So is there another company that's going to do that kind of growth? You're basically talking about a 30x in 5 years. And if I'm correct that they're going to do all the things that I think they're going to do in the next 5 years, then the share price is going to 30x, 20x, 30x. There's no other company I'm interested in buying stock in. The only one that I bought a little bit of was Beyond Meat, and if Impossible Foods, and if there was a lab-based meat company out there that was publicly traded, I would look at those because I think that's a really interesting sector, but I wouldn't make a big investment in them. I would buy Boring Company if it was available, but Boring Company you can't get into. I don't really see anything that has the potential to grow that much in the next 5-10 years as Tesla. So why would I buy anything else? How much is Apple going to grow in the next 5-10 years? Is it going to go 3x or 5x or 10x? When I think that Tesla's going to 20x or 30x, why would I bother? Yeah, I mean, meet Kevin. I just not a short-term guy. I don't look at technical analysis or whatever. Tesla phone rumored? No, there's no Tesla phone coming. It doesn't make sense from Elon's perspective. You enter markets where you have the potential to do, order of magnitude better than everybody else is doing, and other phones are there's a very competitive market for phones. I don't think there's potential for Tesla to come up with a phone. Carbon tax, he mentioned it, but it turns out that Tesla doesn't get to impose a carbon tax. I talked about Rivian earlier. The vehicles are too heavy. I think it's a niche market. I'm excited about them. I hope they succeed, but we'll see. When will infrastructure bill pass? I don't have an opinion on that. Here's a neat one. Put a Tesla stock ticker on the infotainment center. I literally do not watch Tesla share price on a daily basis. I don't watch it during the day. I generally don't watch it. I don't check it. I'm on Twitter, so people tweet it if it goes up. So I know when it goes up, and if it goes down a lot, I know when it goes down just because I see it on Twitter. But I do not look for Tesla share price generally. I buy and hold. I'm worried about 2025. I'm not worried about tomorrow. Not worried about today or tomorrow. All right. So I think I was wondering who do I contact to open Tesla service center and cost? I don't understand that question. Should Tesla roll out FSD in boring cities first when ready and as an inducement to sell boring tunnels? I think Tesla will roll out FSD in California because it's working out. I don't mean by rolling out FSD. FSD is already rolled out. Is Tesla insurance going to be restricted to Tesla vehicles only? I believe that is correct. I think it's already in California. I'm not sure whether they offer Tesla. If you own a Tesla and another vehicle, I'm not sure whether they offer insurance on the other vehicle. I think they might, but I'm not sure. All right. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching. Please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com, the stainless steel water bottles at elonbits.com. Check out my book, Fair DUI, on Amazon. Very highly rated if you want to learn about how to handle a traffic stop when you get pulled over. Check out my other videos. Support the channel on Patreon. Thank you once again to the Vasa Law Firm in Sweden, all my Patreon supporters for helping the channel grow. Join the channel. Join the Daily Lie, which is all this stuff is linked in the description below. And thank you so much for watching.